I've really shifted to being a best ball centric player so that I can focus on daily fantasy stuff during the season. I don't have to do, 20 teams worth of waivers and everything. It's just, I can't. As we see Henry fall to 6. I'm not talking about guys falling in the first round. Tyreek Hill going 4th is a bit of a surprise. That's ahead of ADP. Kelsey going 3. He usually goes around 5. So that's not much of a jump. Tyreek is usually available here at 9. Steph Diggs going 7. So 2 wide receivers in the top 7. Timer's acting funny. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean,
He's a legend.
All right, so we're in this Underdog draft. It is a Best Ball Mania. This is a $20 entry fee Best Ball draft, which means there are no transactions. 18 rounds. This is a tournament style draft. It's not a one-off, so we have got to try and win the entire thing. Not only do we have to finish top 2 in our league to advance to the playoffs, then we have to go 1 week at a time and have enough points later. So Best Ball is very much a battle of attrition. It's a war of attrition. You have to be healthy. You have to have coverage for yourself. You have to try and draft smartly. Recently, running backs have been really falling in terms of ADP on Underdog for various reasons. And so it's going to be interesting to see which values we can end up with from rounds 5 through 10.
He's a legend.
How many drafts have I done so far? I don't know exactly. I've done a bunch. I've done a bunch here on Underdog for the Best Ball Mania. And I've done a few on DraftKings for both their tournaments, the 555 tournament and the $20 tournament. This is something that I just really enjoy doing. This is how I get my fix. In terms of season long, I've really shifted to being a best ball centric player so that I can focus on daily fantasy stuff during the season. I don't have to do, 20 teams worth of waivers and everything. It's just, I can't. As we see Henry fall to 6. I'm not talking about guys falling in the first round. Tyreek Hill going 4th is a bit of a surprise. That's ahead of ADP. Kelsey going 3. He usually goes around 5. So that's not much of a jump. Tyreek is usually available here at 9. Steph Diggs going 7. So 2 wide receivers in the top 7. Timer's acting funny. Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not passing up Kamara at 9. And so there's a lot of different strategies that people employ. We can talk about basically all of them, right? So people employ the 0 running back strategy, meaning that they don't draft a running back for the first few rounds, and then they try to get other guys. People go with that is an anti-fragile, right? Because running backs are more fragile than wide receivers. You can go with a hyper-fragile approach, which is what Mike Beers wrote about years ago for RotoViz, where you go running back heavy. I think some people are calling that robust running back through the first 3 rounds. And what I typically end up doing in most drafts, my draft style depends on where I'm picking. I'm nimble. I'll float between stuff. I don't go into a draft saying, I'm not picking a wide receiver for this many rounds. I mean, I can do that. I'm not picking a running back for this many rounds. I can do that. Most of my drafts, when I just kind of think about them, turn into kind of, they turn into like, I've called it, bell cow and chill. I get a super stud running back early, and then I kind of pick a few wide receivers, and then I take a running back around round 4 through 6. I fill in a couple of running backs who have a job, like the 40% out of a 60-40 combination in rounds 9 through 13, and I end up with 5 or 6 running backs. Pereza, thank you very much for the 16 months. This DJ, thank you very much for the 25 months. Says, yay, Al's back. I am back. And then this is covering who was before that. Vritten, thank you very much for the 21 months. Eat House, 38 months. You guys are amazing. You're way too kind. I appreciate you guys who have been here for years. I appreciate you guys who are new to the channel. If you want to drop a like on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can also become a channel member over on YouTube and get involved in our Discord channel, which is really hopping during NFL season, but maintains during the off season. Antonio Gibson going 2-8. Waller is somebody who I have a lot of shares of at tight end. When I draft near the top of the round, I end up getting, when I get a 1, 2, 3 pick, I end up usually getting Waller here. So he's like my highest owned tight end so far. Antonio Gibson has flown up in terms of ADP. We'll talk about my favorite stacks in another video. Mixon down to 2-9. Waller the baller, yeah, he's a stud. There just aren't that many tight ends that are going to get the targets that Kelsey and Waller are going to get. I think there's one more, and I think that he goes at a ridiculous value. Najee Harris, running back, robust running back here for that team so far with Cook and Harris. Two running backs here, like we said, for Scorpion. Justin Jefferson, George Kittle. Kittle's an interesting conversation, I think, early in draft season. Because from an NFL standpoint, he's super good, right? From a fantasy standpoint, he can be super good. But I only care about volume. I care about volume. I care about opportunity. One leads to the other, obviously. Opportunity can lead to volume. Typically, volume leads to scoring opportunities. Do you think San Francisco is going to be a very pass-happy team all of a sudden? I don't think so. So while I believe that Kittle is a much better asset on an NFL field than Darren Waller is, or other players at the position, I'm scared of him as a fantasy asset this year, especially with the reality that they may end up going to a rookie quarterback who also will help them run the ball a lot more, which means less snaps. They may be playing from behind, though. I mean, they're projected to have like 12 plus wins this year. That's a very, very good team. I don't know that they're going to be a team that's going to be playing from behind a lot. The NFC West, I put a tweet out about this like yesterday, about how every one of the team, now granted there's one more game, but every one of the teams in that division essentially has a win total of 8.5 or more. They're expecting 9 wins out of the 4th place team in that division. The Cardinals is what DraftKings Sportsbook is projecting. Swift going at 3-8 is a monster deal. I'm going to take Mike Evans. This is what we got so far. Kamara, Ridley, Evans through the first 3 rounds. The biggest value is Kamara, ADP of 4.5, and I got him at 9 so far. I'll clearly take that whenever. Like if I get a last 3-4 pick in the first round, I'm typically going wide receiver heavy, right? I'm probably going to start out with 3 wide receivers, unless like Alvin Kamara falls to me. That shocks you in that division. They have one of the softest out of division schedules. Both the entire, like they play two divisions that do not have a lot of talent. So they have a lot of softer out of division games. But yes, like the Rams, the 49ers, the Seahawks all have win totals above 10. 10, 10.5, 11, like stuff. Like I put the tweet out yesterday. I took Godwin. I was going to grab Godwin there. He already has 3 running backs. Probably going to go wide receiver here. Text Prof. How's it going, Stogie? Good to see you. Patrick Mahomes did not go wide receiver there. Running backs that are still available: Miles Sanders, Mike Davis, David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt, Myles Gaskin. I'm going to take Julio. I don't know what to think about Julio this year. He's on an extremely efficient offense. He's on an offense where, do I have any Mahomes? Not usually. If I'm going to if I'm going to draft a quarterback in the first 6 rounds of the draft, I'm going to pick somebody typically who adds more with their feet. And Mahomes is amazing. But like, if I'm picking Mahomes, I'm probably going to have Tyreek Hill or I'm probably going to have Kelsey. It's impossible to get that triple anymore. That's gone. Like last year, if you picked at the swing, if you picked at the turn, you could get like Kelsey and Hill in some drafts. And then if you in the 3rd round, if he fell to you could get Mahomes and you had the entire Chiefs stack right at the beginning of the draft. But like that, those days are gone. You can't get that triple anymore. It's just never happening. Miles Sanders at 410. Like I said, running backs are falling. They're falling really, really far. You're back in the Lamar CMC train that failed you so badly last year. Okay, so Lamar was fine. Even though everybody saw Lamar had a horrible year last year, look where he was in terms of statistics. He was fine. Granted, you paid like an end of the 2nd, top of the 3rd round pick for him, but like he was fine. There were better values at quarterback, but it's not like he was like injured. Like CMC got injured, and that's part of it. But that's part of the reason why running backs are falling as far as running backs are falling. Because people are starting to buy into the fact that it's a really fragile position. Now, if you nail it with 2 or 3 running backs in the first 3 or 4 rounds, which is entirely possible to do, as you saw with Miles Sanders and like DeAndre Swift going in like in the 4th round now in a lot of drafts. Ayuk is somebody who could take a little bit of a leap, but again, volume is an issue. Volume's a very real issue there. People are more willing to spend draft capital on wide receivers and just say, you know what? I'm going to embrace the fragility of the running back position, and I'm going to take guys who may not be 300 to 350 touchbacks, but they're 200 to 250 touchbacks. And in best ball, it's fine. In season long, where there's transactions, it's going to be a different story because now you have to pick the guys who are going to play. And if you pick them, and you have to put them in your roster. It's like, okay, I don't know if this guy is going to have a great week this week. Maybe he'll have a great week this week. But best ball, I don't have to make that decision or that designation. It's just going to play whoever is left to me, whoever scores the most points. So for me, the bell cow and chill model of have the guy that's going to get a lot of touches as long as he's healthy, then load up on 8 to 12 touch target receivers, and then come back with a guy like Mike Davis who should get 15 plus touches a week at the 57th pick as my RB2, and then I'll have other guys behind him because I tend to draft typically 5 running backs in an 18 round draft. And there's been a lot of discussion this year so far about what is the optimal amount of running backs to draft in a best ball draft. And there have been people speaking extremely confidently, let's say, that it's solved. And I disagree that it's solved. Right? You have to draft X amount of running backs. No, I disagree. Like if I post a draft and I have like 5 running backs, there's invariably somebody in the comments who says, you really want that many running backs? Like you have 5 running backs. I'm like, 5 is like the industry standard. They have the same bye week. Don't care. I won't draft 4 running backs with the same bye week, but I don't care if running backs have the same bye week in best ball. I really don't. I think people pay too much attention to that. I think they pay way too much attention to that. Williams going top of the 6th round. That could be a reach. Could go Gaskin here. I really like Gaskin. Etienne is interesting. I don't have any Etienne. I have a lot of Gaskin. I'm going to go him. I really like Gaskin. I have a lot of Gaskin. I also have a lot in this range, a lot of Tyler Boyd. You guys know how I felt about Dallas's offense last year. I feel the same about Dallas's offense this year. And aside from getting both Lamb and Cooper, which is difficult, you're going to have to reach on one of them because they both go in the third round. So if you want to try and force a full Cowboys stack, you're going to have to reach on one of them at 2, take the other one at 3, and then 5th or 6th round, take Dak. But it's possible, and I've done it. But getting back to this running back discussion, Dipman Beef says, my biggest mistake last year in best ball was drafting far too many running backs, 7+ in most cases. Some made profit, but could have done better. Double J, thank you for the 100 bits, man. Happy Monday. Happy Monday. So the discussion that it is completely solved, especially in half-point PPR. In full PPR, yeah, it's more solved. Full point PPR, don't draft more than 2 running backs in the first 10 rounds. Done. Okay, 2 running backs first 10 rounds. So if you're drafting on DraftKings, where it's full PPR and there's point bonuses, prioritize pass catchers, get yourself a running quarterback, all those sorts of things. Right? But when it comes to Underdog, I tweeted something out that was a quote tweet of Hayden Winks, who now produces content for Underdog for their content arm. Myles Gaskin at 6'11" is thievery. And basically, it's like drafting 3 running backs anywhere between 3 and 6. You have the same point expectation. And like I said at the top, it comes way more down to being a battle of attrition. You just have to be healthy when it comes to the playoffs. And you have to have that guy, right? That was like David Montgomery, who just happened to be running against, for 6 weeks, 5 or 6 weeks, was running against 4 of the worst defenses in the league in terms of stopping running backs, and was getting obscene volume because of the fact that Tariq Cohen went down. So like people who drafted David Montgomery kind of luckboxed themselves in best ball into the perfect situation in the playoffs. And you had to have like Alvin Kamara on that team as well, who put up like 24 touchdowns in 1 week. But like the style didn't matter, right? Your draft style didn't matter. Because if you went super hyper fragile and you said, okay, I'm going to draft 3 running backs, robust running back, and go all these guys in the first rounds, and I'm going to load up the rest on pass catchers. You had the same point expectation as somebody who went kind of 0 running back and didn't draft a running back till the 6th round and ended up with like 6 running backs on their team because they were drafting for a little bit more depth, maybe taking a little bit more of a lottery ticket approach at the end of the draft, as I tend to do when I don't have really solid running backs. I think I've got 3 good volume running backs here who will contribute on a somewhat an every week basis. Sorry, once it gets around my pick, I kind of stop talking and I start to think a little bit about what I should be doing. And I like the stack. You know, I think that if you look at the teams that progress through, like they do have a stack. They do have a stack. I wanted LaVisca. I didn't get him here. Marquis Brown is solid. Me and Will Fuller go way back.
He's a legend.
Adam, thank you very much for the 18 months. Jay Shan, thank you for the 2 years. Can we get some VIP spam in the chat for Jay Shan and his 24-month subscription resub? Will Fuller is not going to get the volume in Miami that he got last year for Houston. Tua is not as talented a quarterback as Deshaun Watson, but he's still very, very good. and he's going to be fine. 8th round. I'm interested to see that quarterbacks are still kind of falling a little bit. Like Russ Wilson in the 8th round is a ridiculous value. He's a ridiculous value, but I don't have any wide receivers. So like, here's where the stacking question comes into play. If you see a ridiculous value like this, should you take the quarterback knowing that you don't really have him or anybody to stack him with? And like, I'm of the mindset that, like, you know what? At some point, talent takes over, and Russ is real good. So getting a full round and a half value, even though I don't have him stacked with anyone, and stacking is optimal. Yes, I want to stack a quarterback with his 20 plus market share of target pass catchers. There just aren't any there. But that's too glaring a value for me to pass up. You know, that's really too much of a value for me to pass up. As much as I prefer running quarterbacks, like I have a lot of Hurts this year, but like if you're telling me that in the 8th round, am I going to take Hurts or am I going to take Wilson? At the same pick, if both are on the board, I'm taking Wilson because Hurts in the 8th or 9th round, fine. Right? That's where he should be. And I'm sure he's been a really polarizing person all through the summer. Right? Everybody is either all in on Jalen Hurts or they're all out of, he's a terrible quarterback. He's bad. He's this. Rah. But like, he's going to run a lot. And you don't have to be a great quarterback. If you start all the games and you run 10 times a game. Again, this is the difference between real life and fantasy. Jalen Hurts, who knows? Maybe he is not going to be an excellent quarterback in the NFL. But I'm not an NFL GM. I'm drafting fantasy teams here. And if you've got a running back, basically, at quarterback who's going to run it 170 times over the course of the season, you have yourself a ridiculous floor. Even not factoring in touchdowns, right? Rushing touchdowns, which are extremely variant, right? They're high variance things. We can't guarantee who's going to have what. But like the running quarterbacks are going to get you 5 to 10 touchdowns, somewhere in that range. Joey B. Did he stack him? Yeah, yes. Aha. Higgins, Boyd, Burrow. I love the Cincinnati stack. You can't get all 3 of the wide receivers, but I like that stack a lot this year. That's another stack that I don't think I have enough of, but it's one that I will target. Oh, that makes me mad. I wanted Logan Thomas. I think he's my highest owned player. I think that he is my most drafted player is Logan Thomas. You got all 3 on DK? Again, DK is a different animal. Underdog has much sharper ADP. Underdog is much better drafters, partially because they have a smaller player pool of people who are drafting and drafting a lot. Logan Thomas in the 9th round is an absurd value. He is one of my most drafted players this year so far because tight end is a position where there's not a lot of volume. There's not a lot of players who get a lot of volume, not volume of snaps, volume of routes run, volume of routes run per QB drop back, and target percentage. They don't have it. You know, it's not a position where you get that. So, because of that, he's getting the same volume, albeit I don't believe that he's the same player as Kittle or Waller, but he's getting similar volume of targets and now has better quarterback play. I think you could get Mark Andrews type production fantasy wise, who's going in the 5th round, out of Logan Thomas, who's going in the 9th round. I think he's a very, very clear volume play. Noah Fant going there. James Robinson. Like, if you think that he's going to handle much more volume than people expect based on what he did last year, that they're not just going to kick him off to the side, I think he's a fine play. Tony Pollard, Ronald Jones, Corey Davis is getting a lot of love here. I'm going to go with Tom Brady. I've got my 2 QBs. I'm going to draft a 3rd because of the bye week. It'll be late. Don't worry about it. UNC for 4 years. It's been 4 years. Brady with 2 knees is scary. Imagine not having torn ligaments and playing quarterback with your entire same offense that you just sort of figured out halfway through the last season. Also, that gives me a stack with Mike Evans. UNC went through high school with you. So now we've got to figure out the rest of this roster. We've got some depth at wide receiver that we need. And I don't mark, I usually queue up players just to let me know where they're at. I don't do it when I'm drafting live on stream because people will snipe just for the sake of sniping. It's just one of the things that just kind of is what it is. Best wide receivers available, all in this range. Everybody's got a very balanced roster. I don't have a very balanced roster. Not how I'm doing things, apparently. Marvin Jones moving out of Detroit and over to Jacksonville. Gronk, if I wanted the double stack with tight end, Gronk 2 touchdown possibility any week. T-Law going 10-6. That's a little higher than he's been going. Kevin Leakey, thank you very much for the 49 months. See, he did what UNC did, and then he went one further. Just to one up UNC. Just to one up UNC. That's just to needle him a little bit. Also need more horsey streams. I love the horsies. Now that they got breeding open on Zed Run, now that they got, I'm breeding horses, I'm keeping the fillies, I'm selling all the colts. Now it's like a thing where I can, there's money coming in. Blame Allen his summer schedule. See, I feel so bad about summer schedule. Tannehill's solid. Tannehill in the 10th could be one of the best values on the board. And he's gone up from like the 13th. Early in the summer, like June, beginning of June, he was going really late. And I was like, why is he going this late? He was one of the clearest values on the board. Leonard Fournette in the 10th. The Bucs running back situation, and both of them go back to back. When you add in Gio now, Leonard Fournette was the passing down back. Ronald Jones, by the time the playoffs got here, really had no role. It was all Lenny. Or mostly Lenny. What do you guys in chat or on YouTube, what do you guys believe the Bucs running back situation is going to break down to? Because personally, I don't know that any of now in best ball, again, you're drafting in the 10th, 11th round is not much risk. You can take them as 0 RB candidates. It's fine. I'm not seeing as much pass game work for Lenny as was there before. because of Gio. Even if Gio takes 50% of the pass game or passing down or 2-minute drill work away from Fournette, Fournette goes from like a 4 to 6 target a game guy, possibly, to a 2-3 target a game guy who's splitting early down work. Ew. Kevin, thank you very much for the 5 gifted subs. You guys got a gifted sub from Kevin Leakey. Drop him a thank you. Appreciate that very much, dude. Way too kind. Justin Fields going here. The Gus Bus at 11-7, I think, is a really good pick at that range. I also like Daryl Henderson a lot here. I think Henderson is actually #good. We've seen the Rams never just lean on one guy under McVay. Yeah, that one year that Gurley had the ridiculous season before he got hurt. But even last year, when we thought it was going to be Henderson, or people thought it was going to be Akers, Malcolm Brown had himself a lot of really good games. And in the event that one of them gets hurt, the difference in draft cost between Cam Akers, was a first-round ADP, back into the first-round ADP, and Henderson, who's going in the 11th round in most drafts, who isn't going to be a zero factor, right? Henderson, what if he's a much more talented version of Malcolm Brown, right? Catches the ball better, shiftier, faster. What if he steps into Malcolm Brown's role with a little bit more pass game work? As good as that offense is going to be. I'm just going to lock this in here, make sure that I have a stack. Right? It's around his ADP. I didn't want a chance that he wasn't going to be there on the way back. His ADP is 141, pick 136. Again, Everett stepping into the #1 tight end role in an offense that tends to pass the ball a lot. Every year they say that Russ Wilson's just going to establish the run this year. They're not going to do it. Henderson is my Phillip Lindsay this year. 100%. 100%. And did Phillip Lindsay work out last year? No. He got hurt. Gerald, I don't know how to block Everett. Gerald, I catch the ball when you throw it to me, though. And he's got a pretty good dude throwing him the ball. So, like, picking Henderson, and I'm sure that somebody is going to write in the replies on YouTube, Henderson's not good. Cam Akers is going to get all the carries. Cam Akers can be very good, and Cam Akers will not get 100% of the running back snaps for the Rams. If Cam Akers sees 60 to 65% of the running back snaps and running back touches for the Rams, that still leaves 35 to 40% of the touches for Daryl Henderson, with Malcolm Brown moving on to Miami. So even if Cam Akers stays healthy the entire year, Daryl Henderson will have a role and will produce points. And with as fragile as the running back position is, drafting a guy who is already on the field and is one play away from picking up 20 plus touches in a game, or 18 plus touches a game, including work in the pass game, is a solid best ball strategy. As my RB4, right? The hopes are I don't need to lean on Daryl Henderson for 20 touches a game. But if Cam Akers misses 3 or 4 weeks with something, an ankle or whatever, Daryl Henderson for those 4 weeks should clean up. If Cam Akers stays healthy the whole season, Daryl Henderson will still provide me with a couple of weeks where he has 15 plus points and may end up starting for me on this best ball team. I kind of like this team. I have a Brady stack with Evans. I have a Russ Wilson stack with Everett. Maybe 12 to 14% of the target market share for him. He's definitely not going to get the lion's share with Lockett and with Metcalf there. But at least I've got something to build off of. And yes, because both quarterbacks have a week 9 bye week, I'm going to have to draft a quarterback later. And there's always quarterbacks available in round 17 and 18 for me to pick to hopefully start that 1 week where I don't have a quarterback. Ideally, most of my teams, I have 2 quarterbacks. I don't usually draft 3. Running back still available at this point. Singletary, Nyheim Hines, who still has a role, but that running back backfield is a little more crowded now, but his role is not what Mac's role or Thomas's role has been. David Johnson, Madison, again, the guy who's one play away from getting 90% of the running back touches. JD McKissick, even if Antonio Gibson sees a lot more pass game work, there still is going to be work for JD McKissick. James White is James White. We know about him. I talked about Kenny Gainwell before. You basically got a bunch of guys who could do stuff but they're not on the field guys, right? They're not already on the field guys. Everybody down here at this point needs something to happen for them to basically be on the field, except David Johnson, but that team's going to suck. Wide receiver does kind of get thin once you get past this point. As you can see, there's still some guys who get targets. Hunter Renfrow gets targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown, great name, should get a lot of targets because there's just nobody in Detroit. But like it gets a little bit thin once we get over here. Tight end also thin. Jonnu Smith at this point seems like a ridiculous value. I could stack with Gronk here, and because I've got this team, I'm going to. But Jonnu Smith is probably the more optimal pick from an overall points perspective. But in a tournament, I'm not looking to have as many projectable points or all of the projectable points. I'm looking really at just going after those tournament weeks, right? Catching a 0 from a tight end, not all that important. Catching a 0 from a quarterback where you should be able to get 15 to 25 points out of your quarterback every single week, different situation. Fitzpatrick here in the 13th round is somebody who I've been targeting a lot. I love Fitzmagic. We talked about how the football team is one of the best stacking options. Dallas last year and Houston were my two favorite stacking options. Houston no longer one of my favorite team stacks to chase after. Dallas still is one of them. And the WFT is certainly one of them. I said Logan Thomas in the 9th round. McLaurin goes around the 3rd round. Curtis Samuel around the 6th round. Fitzmagic, you could reach. If you get 2 of those other 3 guys in the first 10 rounds, I would be happy reaching in the 12th round to get Fitz to make sure that I get what I want there, as opposed to the other way around. See what I mean? Wide receiver gets super thin in this range. This is where a lot of people start taking a lot of their other running backs. Brown, solid there. I'll take the corpse of AJ Green. A little bit ahead of ADP. I might have gotten him back on the wrap. I have some thoughts about Kyler. I don't know how else to put that. But I have some thoughts about Kyler. They're positive thoughts. I don't want somebody to say, Al said he has thoughts about Kyler. He hates Kyler. Nope. That's not it. I'm sure I'll talk about this. Again, Baker Mayfield in the middle of the 14th round. Baker Mayfield right now on DraftKings Sportsbook has a touchdown total over under of 29.5. He's going in the 14th round. Also extremely stackable with Odell and Landry. Another stack that if you want to load up on skill position players early and then go for cheap quarterback stacks, just another cheap quarterback stack that you could go after. Single stack or double stack. Most of my Kyler lineups so far this year are when I get Hopkins in the 2nd round. And then I just take Kyler in the 5th. But again, he's stackable. It's just higher quarterback draft equity price that you have to pay to end up with that. So this team took an interesting turn. with the double quarterback tight end stacks. Like I said, I'm okay taking a 0 in one of the weeks from a tight end, right? If I miss the playoffs by the 7 or 8 points that these tight ends are going to average with this team, then fine, I screwed up, my bad, right? If I didn't have a tight end who got me 5 points that week. 5th round on Underdog is your favorite Kyler round. That's typically where 4th or 5th round is where Kyler, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, those guys go in that range. Now, I know that Josh Allen had a better year. He was the QB1 last year. But that might be the best year that Josh Allen ever has. And I'm sure that that's going to piss somebody off. And they're going to tell you, how dare you? Josh Allen is just coming into himself and he's going to be the best quarterback of all time. And he's going to continue to grow off of that season that he had last season. What if I told you that the first year that Patrick Mahomes started was going to be the best year of his career from a fantasy perspective? What if I said that there was a very real possibility that that was going to be the case? And thus far, it has been the case. It's hard to throw for 50 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. People act like he was just going to do it every year. But look, he's got all the same players and he's got this great coach. He threw for 9 point something or 10% touchdown efficiency. It's just not happening. Josh Allen took a massive leap last year in terms of his touchdown percentage, in terms of efficiency across the board. I'll look into this after the video. YouTube, I'm sorry, but like I'm not going to sit here and go through stats on YouTube like we do on stream. If you want to come by the stream, live on Twitch, 5-6 days a week during football season. I'm trying to get in at least 3 days a week through August. I'll hopefully I can get 5 days a week through August, but we'll see. Let's see what's left at wide receiver. So Hamler, Renfro goes much later, plus 200 ADP. Deshaun Jackson, or is the other kid that was a rookie last year going to take a step forward? I like Gainwell as a lottery ticket at this point of drafts. Going to take a wide receiver, though. It's going to be Hamler. Renfro is the better floor pick. He should get more targets, but like there's no real upside with Hunter Renfro. There just isn't. When did salaries drop last year? Anyone remember? Right after Al sends his strongly worded tweet. Post the week 1 salaries, you cowards. So my standard roster build is 2 quarterbacks, 5 running backs, 7 wide receivers, 2 tight ends. And when you add that up, you're going to see that that does not add up to 18. That's where I start. Okay? And that leaves me 2 rounds to fill in where I need to fill in. If I need to take a 6th running back, right? If I need to take a 6th running back, I can. And there's always plenty of running backs near the end of these drafts. If I need to take a tight end, I can. If I need to take a quarterback, I can. And judging by the value that's out here at quarterback, Jameis is fine, Goff is fine, Roethlisberger's fine. Roethlisberger's probably going to be the guy that I pick here, but I want the upside of Daniel Jones. Runs a little bit, is going to be the starter. Hopefully by that time that I need him to play the 1 week, and 3 quarterbacks is not the route that I like to go, but I painted myself into a corner because of the roster build that I had. And I kind of put it all on the table. And if you're looking at it from a tournament perspective, this was a sit and go, a single league where there's 17 weeks and I just have to outscore everybody for those 17 weeks. I'm probably not going to take 2 quarterbacks with the same bye week. So this is a tournament. And I've got to get to weeks 14, 15, 16, 17 with an opportunity to advance and be a little bit unique. And there aren't going to be very many teams that have 2 quarterbacks with the same bye week. So that forces me into a situation where now I have different guys than other players are going to have. So from a uniqueness point of view, this team is definitely going to be a little bit different from what the field is going to have. Remember Boston Scott chalk week 1? Was it week 1? There's Gio Bernard going the 16th, like we talked about earlier. Philip Lindsay, another player we mentioned earlier. Darrington Evans. If something happens to Derrick Henry, then he's the lead guy for Tennessee. He's not going to get big dog workload. Hamler going to have some spike weeks. Hamler might have one spike week. Everybody's healthy right now for Denver. So, like, he's not ahead. And the best situation for Hamler is if the Aaron Rodgers to Denver thing actually happens, right? And there's Van Jefferson and Deshaun Jackson going back to back. Again, like I talked about. Ben Roethlisberger, I don't know what to make of him. I don't. Cam Newton brings into conversation an interesting situation there. So now we talk about who's going to be your fifth running back. And you kind of have to pick a guy that you think either has a path to playing time immediately or this is a very hyper fragile. 3 running backs all early. 1, 2, 3 running backs. Loading up on wide receiver to make sure he has wide receivers and probably going to use a wide receiver a lot in his flex. It's a build. Chuba Hubbard in case CMC gets injured. Vegas 107, thank you for the 9 months. How long until we get the release the first week salaries, you cowards? It's always August 1st. It's always the first week of August. So let's see who the running back is. Gainwell does not have a path to the field right away. He's going to play some, but there's a lot of running backs there. But in case Sanders goes down, I think that he's the guy, and I have a lot of shares from Rashad Penny. Same thing with him. Damian Williams playing behind Montgomery, and with Cohen coming back. I like James White, who has a very standard role. You know what his role is. He's my running back 5 on this team. I don't want to have to use him, but in the case that he has a week or two, he's there for me. Or in case I have a couple of injuries, at least I know what his role is. And if I'm going to take a chance on a running back late, I either want a lottery ticket that can turn into a number 1, right? A guy that can go from playing 30% of the snaps to playing 70% of the snaps. And there are some of those guys that are out there still at this point. Damian Williams being one of them. Maybe Justin Jackson. Kenny Gainwell, I believe, is one of those type of guys. I know that people, well, he's undersized, he's small. Not that small, guys. 195 is not small for a running back. Let's stop that slander right now. At the combine, Clinton Portis was 195 pounds. Austin Eckler, when he got drafted, was 195 pounds. 195 pounds is different from 170 pounds. Now, 170 pound running back, that's too freaking small. 195 pounds is fine. I'm not arguing that it's ideal, but it's fine. You're not, oh, he's only 200 pounds. He can't possibly. He's fine. Like, let's just not make, like, if you want to make the argument, well, he's a 5th round running back. Okay, I get that. There's Renfro. Mims is in the doghouse. Dart throw at best there. A lot of wide receivers still available here. That, again, well worthy of a dart throw. But one that I think is extremely worthy of a dart throw is Keelan Cole. Coming off of an 87 target season, moving to the Jets where they paid him money. Right? Same GM, new coach. They paid him money. They signed off on this dude. I believe he's going to be one of their top 3 wide receivers to start the season. Say what you want about what you think that Jets offense is going to be. It doesn't matter. If he's on the field and playing, there's other guys that I think are fine in that range, right? Like Scotty Miller, if I wanted to go with another player on Tampa Bay, maybe as a spike week here or there. Josh Reynolds was better before they took Julio. Byron Pringle, if you want to take that KC plunge and say, you know what, I don't think Hardman can handle being the number 2 guy, but Pringle has thrived when he's been that guy. Fine, I'm okay with that. Same thing that I said about, what's his name on the Raiders? It's fine. Preston Williams coming back from an ACL, fine. Kendrick Bourne on New England, fine. I want the guy who's going to be on the field. A lot of people think DPJ is going to take a massive leap this year. I think it's hard to take a massive leap in terms of targets, considering that Odell Beckham Jr. and Landry are ahead of him. And those 2 guys are target monsters. We'll take a look at this team as soon as it finishes. We'll wrap it up. UNC asked, where did Barkley go? I think he went right after I got Kamara at 9. I think he went 10. Kamara at 9, I think, is a steal. I understand that people are letting running backs fall on Underdog right now, but like, that's ridiculous. That's absurd. Randall Cobb, Tim Patrick. Yeah, it's a bit much. Yeah, like Kamara should not fall past 5 in any draft, let alone 9. We'll get our little post-draft. Oh, we don't get the post-draft thing. Let's see. Best Ball Mania. This one. There. Here's how we ended up with this team. Wilson and Brady anchoring it at quarterback. Both have the same bye week. Clearly not optimal, but that's the route that I chose to go based on how I was drafting wide receivers and what I knew was going to fall to me at tight end, or what I felt was going to fall to me at tight end. Kamara fell to me at 9, which I think is an absolute steal. Mike Davis at pick 57 is an awful lot of volume. Etienne in the next round at 64, a little bit below his ADP. I had a choice between him and Gaskin. I have a lot of Gaskin and I have a lot of Davis Gaskin lineup, so I went with Etienne because I don't have a lot of him. Daryl Henderson, one of my most drafted players so far this draft season. James White to round it out at running back. Ridley, Evans, Julio, Fuller. I got the Jones brothers, Julio and Marvin, AJ Green, KJ Hamler. Hopefully he can get a couple of spike weeks for me and start. And Keelan Cole, I think, is a glaring value in the 18th round. Gerald Everett taking over the TE1 job in Seattle, and Gronk just hoping for a couple of touchdowns here or there from him, and pairing that on Tom Brady for his big 3 and 4 touchdown weeks that seem to happen for Tom Brady every year. Thank you guys for joining me. If you'd like this video, drop a like on the video itself, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, do all the things that help it out in the algorithm. It helps more than you can even know. If you want to jump in the Discord, there's a link down below. And if you become a channel member, you get access to all the sub-only channels as well. Welcome back to football season. Happy to be here. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.
He's a legend.